Good morning, ladies, and welcome back to the Respect There 40 Days to a Deeper Connection with God and with your husband. All right, so today we are on there number 10, good advice. It starts with Luke 6:37. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. So, in today's devotional, she shares an example of this woman whose husband came to talk to her about, his boss wanting him to do these meetings at work and whatnot because he was up for a promotion and his boss thought it would be a good idea for him to be a little bit more exposed. He didn't see the point in it. And he was just, like upset really for having to waste time to do something that he didn't think was important. So instead of criticizing him, instead of just saying, why can't you just do it and whatever, and instead of criticizing the boss for like, oh my gosh, he's such a time waster or whatever, she acknowledged his point. She understood why he would feel that way, yet she offered a different perspective, and I believe that oftentimes God gives us a different perspective that our husbands haven't been able to see yet, that is important to them to see, right? And obviously that's why he puts us together, right? Because we see things from different perspectives, we see things from different lenses, and oftentimes the way that we see things will help our husbands not only become better, and become a fuller version of who they truly are, but it can also benefit us, right? Like for instance, in this whole scenario, the wife would also benefit from the promotion of the husband, right? Because now he's getting more money, and now he's getting more recognition, and now he's in a better place at his work altogether. So she benefits from that as well, right? And oftentimes, actually every single time really, we benefit from our husband's promotions, right? And I'm not just talking about work promotions, but I'm saying their promotion spiritually, their promotion emotionally, every promotion that they have, every little bit of growth that our husbands have, we benefit from it in the same way that they benefit from us growing as well, right? So what I'm trying to say is that oftentimes we are so quick to judge, we are so quick to criticize, we are so quick to offer advice in a way that seems to them so critical that they will not even want to hear it, when in reality we too benefit from every little bit that they grow, in the same way that they benefit from what we grow, right? 100% of the time. So the bottom line here is, do not judge, do not criticize or condemn others, but instead be a woman who speaks carefully in wisdom and encourages her husband. You will find yourself listened to more often than and have a great influence in those around you. So, for a good amount of time, my husband and I had been very disconnected emotionally, right? He used to say, well, I'm just not an emotional person and whatnot. And I settled for that, right? I shared this with you guys on the beginning. And during this time, he shared very little with me. He shared, and yeah, I mean, of course, he shared the big things, but he shared very little on his heart with me, on how he felt about things, because to him, he just had no feelings. And that is obviously not true, but we have began to understand each other even when we don't agree with each other, and we have begun to understand that he may express it in different ways than I do, but he is just as emotional. He just does not show it. He just doesn't know how to express it, or he doesn't know yet how to recognize what he's feeling. So the moment that he acknowledged that he is an emotional being just as I am, you know, different but yet the same, right? He began to be more aware of his emotions. He began to be more aware of himself, and he began to be more willing to share, because he understood too that as he shares, he's also processing it for himself, in the same way that I am. And he understood that not always are we asking for advice in the same way that he is not always asking for advice either. So, anyways, there is this number 4. When you give advice, are you forceful and bossy or gentle in suggestions? So I think that I recognized that I used to be forceful, meaning like I have the answer right here. Why aren't you taking it? Like, would you like for me to crack your head open and put it in there, type thing. But I realized that that doesn't work, right? He might end up listening to it, because he realizes that's a good advice. But until he does, he's making mistakes, and he's hurting in ways that is unnecessary, and I hurt when he's hurt because he's my husband, and the other way around is true too, right? So I think that learning to be gentle and suggestive versus here's what it is, I know the answer, has been a lot more efficient because he actually listens, and he actually looks forward to share the next thing, and to share again the next day, if that makes sense. And I think that number 5 says, can how can you become a wife who is held in high esteem and respected by your husband as being safe, confident? And I think that it's by paying attention that we don't criticize, and by making sure that we know their hearts. If I know my husband's heart and I know what's important to him, I can give advice and suggestions in a way that honors what's important to him, in a way that honors who he is as a person, as a human. If I know that it's hard for my husband to deal with making mistakes, then I can offer advice without ever highlighting any mistakes, and I can say it's okay, you know what I mean, versus criticizing the mistakes, or versus making advices that highlight the mistake, which is just another form of criticizing to him, even though I'm not trying to criticize. Does that make sense? So I think that understanding our husband's heart and what's important to him, what are his core values, it's very helpful. So my husband and I, some time ago, we took the time to go over some core values and understand what are my core values, what are his core values, what are our core values for our family, because I think that understanding that gives us a place where we can speak to each other without violating those values, and by emphasizing those values. So for me, if one of my core values is love, he understands that everything that I do is moved by love, right? So he understands that because my core value is love, I put people before tasks. I may have a to-do list of 20 things, but if somebody calls me and it's somebody important to me and they need to talk and vent, I'm going to answer, and my list is just gonna have to wait. On the other hand, it's not that love is not important to my husband, is that he's very task oriented, and he's very logical, and he's very, okay, let me go and do these things, so it's very hard for him to put anybody, even me, before his to-do list, you know, because he has this list and it's things that need to get done, and if it doesn't, and he's overwhelmed and he's feeling like he didn't accomplish what he needed to accomplish. Do you see how the priorities can be different? And it doesn't mean that he's not my priority or that I'm not his priority. It means that the ways that we are wired is different, you know. But if he understands how I'm wired and I understand how he's wired, I'm going to approach him in a time that I know he's available. You know, I'm going to make sure that I am in one of his to-do lists for the day, right? Talk to me, pray with me, read your devotional with me, are things that go on his task list, you know. And it doesn't mean that I'm a task. It means that if it's not on his calendar and it's not on his list, then somehow it just goes by undone, you see. So but because I know that about him and I don't take it personally, I don't think that it's because he's not prioritizing me. I just understand how he's wired, you know. So now I'm able to put myself on his list, you know, and make sure that he has me there and make sure that he takes the time for me that I need to connect, you know. And at the same time, I'm honoring and respecting the rest of his list and everything else that he needs to do, because I understand he works with a time calendar and I don't. So I can just submit myself to his calendar and make sure that what I get what I need in a way that works for him as well, you see. But if I don't understand that about him and I just think that he's not prioritizing me, which was the case before, I'm never going to make that list, you know, because I'm always just complaining and criticizing and asking him why he's not prioritizing me and things like that, you see. So I think it's so important that we understand how each other is wired and the things that are valuable to us, you know, to each other, right? So that we can respect, we can honor, and we can make it work in a way that works for both. So that was that for today's challenge. Good advice. I will see you tomorrow for our next one. Have a great day.